So we'll get started here on our monthly market report.
Welcome to the February monthly market report. It's the second month of 2025. Hard to believe January is done, and we are sort of off to the races with this year. Before we get started today, I just want to say, this first month of the year saw a lot of change, and it seems like a lot going on. Wildfires out in LA, and our hearts go out to them and all of the tragedy in DC and the plane crash, and our hearts go out to everybody there. And listen, this is a time, I was talking to an agent over the weekend. This is a time where we can step up and help wherever we can. There's been so many great stories of agents and the community of real estate stepping up during this time, and it's certainly an opportunity and a chance we have to help those that are hurting. I think as we think about the year going ahead, helping people, helping buyers, helping sellers navigate this market is going to be critically important. And I'm going to talk about that for the next few minutes. We're going to talk about probably one of the opportunities for buyers right now that helps them understand their opportunity to buy. We're going to talk about one of the biggest things that sellers have to leverage, that's equity, give you an update there. And then I'm going to kind of wrap up with sort of an optimistic look on a survey that was done about what Americans are saying, not only about the value and the benefit of real estate, but those that expect to transact this year. So all of that ahead in the monthly market report. Take all of this information and use it to create opportunity in your market, whether it's a text or an email or something to engage someone on what's happening in this market. But let's start right here with Ramsey Solutions said this: even though interest rates are still high, that's true, it's a great time to buy a house. The interest rates have priced some buyers out of the markets, which means you can face less competition when you make offers. Plus, if interest rates do eventually go down significantly, you can always refinance to get a lower rate. Obviously, they're talking about mortgage rates there. That's the benefit of buying a home, right? Is you buy at the price today, mortgage rates still high, but as they come down at some point in the future, and I think we can say that confidently, we just don't know when, then you can refinance, right? And you can lower your payment. And that's the beautiful thing about home ownership, among so many other things. But that's the truth. And I think this creates this opportunity right now where we sit in February, this sort of buy opportunity before the spring market. There's 3 points here. Higher mortgage rates right now in winter weather in a lot of the country equals less competition, in a number of different ways. People that are like, hey, we're not going to do it right now, or we can't afford to do it right now. 2, fear and uncertainty in the market equal opportunity always, right? And there's been so much volatility and wondering how things are going to affect real estate, the new administration and tariffs and all the things that we hear that just create fear. That's all they do. That is an indicator towards there will be opportunity, right? Because everybody that is afraid does the same thing, and that's nothing. We know that. Sellers who need to sell give you more negotiating power as a buyer. That's certainly true. And so I think it points to this opportunity to consider to buy right now. But, I think if we're talking to people about it, it can seem like we're trying to convince them to do something. But let me show you the data behind it. But I always think about this quote from Warren Buffett. He said this: be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Certainly over the last several years in real estate, you've seen so many people come in, but right now people are maybe hesitant, which again signals an opportunity to buy. I think as we start to look at the information and the data that's coming out, I want to point to a couple of different things that I think I would use. We released a video on this, Keeping Current Matters. Got a lot of views in the first couple of days. You can go look at KCM on Instagram and see that video. But this is it right here. It's a NAR study that says buying in the off-season may feel less rushed. And what that comes from is in January, February, and March, the median days on market of homes purchased in those months has been higher than just about the rest of the year, right? Things are sort of moving faster the rest of the year. So likely whatever's on the market right now has been sitting on the market. Maybe you're listening and you've got a listing right now. You're like, yeah, I've got one of those sitting on the market, and I'm just ready for some activity, somebody to make an offer to get somewhere with this. But also, I think we want to look at price. Lisa Sturdivant with Bright MLS said this: during any given year, home prices tend to be at their lowest point of the year in January or February. Prices typically are lower during the winter because demand is lower. We just talked about that. And as a result, if you're looking to buy a home this year, it may make sense to do your home shopping in January or February, when you may be able to get a better price. I'm here to tell you, now is the time, if you're thinking about buying, to step into the market. And again, we talked about days on market, but take a look at this from NAR. This is the median sales price of existing homes January through December of last year. And oh, by the way, what shows up again? The lowest median sales price of the year in January, February, and March. So I think this is something that buyers should consider, and you can take all of this and apply it to your market and say, okay, here are the average days on market right now. Here's the median sales price, each month. This is true in our market, or it's different in our market, whatever the case is. And really put out content right now for those that are thinking about buying, because we know over the last several years, and even the last year, a lot of buyers abandoned their search for a number of different reasons. Primary reason, rising cost of buying a home. Many people said, we just can't afford it right now. Lisa Sturtevant in that same report said between 2010 and 2024, according to home price data across the Bright MLS service area, home prices are an average of 15% lower in January and February than they are during the month of peak home prices. In most years, that highest is June. Go back to that real quick. And June, yes, the peak there, median sales price. So all of that right there points to an opportunity in buying a home to say, if you're thinking about it, the time to get started is now, to get pre-qualified, to start looking and saying, hey, what does that look like for you right now? Because there is opportunity for those that are looking to buy a home. But if you go out and look at NAR's profile of buyers and sellers, they also said 51% of buyers are also sellers. And that number is actually, for 2024, was a little bit lower. It sort of runs about 70%. And I think it maybe has to do with the influx of new first-time home buyers that are coming into the market. But needless to say, most people that are buying need to sell their other homes. So what's the number one thing that sellers have to leverage? I mentioned that as we started out. It's equity. According to ICE, which ICE, if you don't know them, they're a technology company in the mortgage business that all the loan applications flow through. So they see purchase price, they see loan amount, they see all of that. According to ICE, the average homeowner with a mortgage now has $319,000 of equity in their home, of which $207 is what they call tappable equity. Now, tappable equity, we've covered it here before, but I'll remind anybody just listening, it is the amount that the lender will let you borrow out of your, out of your equity. You can't take it all. You can't go up to 100%. But $207,000, a lot of money there that's tappable. Well, if you go out and sell your home, obviously you can use all of it unless you hold some back for some reason. So the number one thing that any seller in this market has to leverage is the equity in their home. Matter of fact, NAR and CoreLogic said national homeowner equity remains at near historical peak of $311,000. Over the past decade, listen to this, the typical homeowner has accumulated $201,000 in wealth solely from price appreciation. Oh, by the way, the number one way people build wealth in this country is through home ownership. A typical homeowner's accumulated $147,000 housing wealth in the last 5 years. I mean, think about these numbers. They're shocking. They're challenging too. I'm not trying to skip over that, right? The quick rise in price has given a lot of people equity and this ability to leverage that equity if they sell their home, but it's a result of rising prices. And the last point there, for the third quarter in 2024, which is the most recent information, the average U.S. homeowner gained approximately $5,700 in equity during the past year. So even a slower year in real estate, prices going up, equity, rising in homes. And a lot of this, is due to the rise in prices, but also is kind of a combo effect that people are staying in their homes longer. Forever, if you grew up in the business, people stayed in their home or sold their home about every 5 or 6 years. And that was true up until about 2008. And if you go post 2008 through sort of the last decade, you see right at about 10 years, 10 years, 9.3, I think is the average, which is interesting, right? Even if you think about engaging those that you're working with or your database, even on this of almost a poll of how long have you been in your home, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see that start to shift to a higher number. People certainly are staying in their homes longer these days than what they historically used to do. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. People are aging in place and staying in homes a lot longer. Certainly those that over the last several years have had a mortgage rate that they want to hang on to are staying in homes longer. You see it dip down in 2001 where, sort of the peak of the market, everybody went in and said, we're going to buy right now. But this combo effect of rising prices, people staying in their homes longer has equaled a massive amount of equity. If you go back and look at FHFA, these are the maps for the change in home price over the last 5 years. And the national average as of the third quarter of last year, 2024, the most recent information, the national average 57.4%. You see it there. But you can look at your state and say, okay, what is the percent change in home price over the last 5 years in the state that we're in? I'm in Virginia right now, 55%. You look at California, 46%, I think is that. Texas, 50%. You can go and look at your state and say, okay, look, in the state that we're in over the last 5 years, this has been the average price appreciation here. If you look at the last 30 years, going all the way back to 1991, 326%. You see across the map there the different levels of price growth by state, and some states a little bit more than others. But bottom line is homes appreciate over time. We always say it's not timing the market, it's time in the market, and that certainly is true. And all that equals equity. I mentioned $5,700 being the national average over the last year, but you see here by state, many states, you see that sort of that light blue color there, to $15,000 in price appreciation, equity appreciation. You see some states showing up now with equity depreciation as well. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. I got a text the other day on a group text that I'm in, and somebody said, hey, I just heard that around 40% of people in this country own their home free and clear. Is that true? And I said, it absolutely is true. And I responded with this graphic right here. The green portion is those in this country that own their home free and clear, 39.3. We can call that almost 40%. Like the text that I mentioned there. The blue area, mortgage homes with greater than 50%, equity 29%. That total there, 68.3% of the homes in this country are either paid off or what's considered equity rich, meaning they have at least 50% equity in their home. And that's amazing, right? Great for homeowners. Anybody that bought a home over the last, several years is certainly benefiting from that. Anybody that bought a home over the last 10, 20, 30 years is benefiting from that. It is the advantage to owning a home. Back in 2008, many people were wondering, is home ownership still the American dream? And I think we can look at it today and say, it is the American dream. Everybody needs a place to live. And in the fact that you can accumulate equity through owning a home is a very, very good thing for those that, will put that equity to work. They'll send a kid to college or maybe start a business or, all the things that we know that people do with the equity in their homes. But the reality is, and this came from Redfin, they said 2025 will be a renter's market. And there's certainly truth to that. There will be people that need to rent. I'm not suggesting everybody should buy a home, but they say most Americans will remain renters or become renters while the cost of buying a home will increase, rental affordability will improve. We expect the median U.S. asking rent to remain flat year over year in 2025. There will also be more new rental units coming onto the market. I don't know where you're at, but certainly here in Richmond, Virginia, I mentioned, you see a lot of apartments going up, and there are new rental units coming in. It seems like every day, right? We are all in the business of real estate and want to see people own homes and own their own home, because the truth is anybody that lives indoors pays a mortgage. The question is, are you paying it for yourself? Are you paying it for your landlord? And typically, even though they're saying it's going to be flat year over year, rents increase. This is a look going all the way back to 1988 quarterly, showing median rent in this country growing each quarter, right? And I think that's typically what we've seen. And we're at a time right now where a lot of people are going, should I buy, should I rent? Probably one of the best text or engagement strategies for anybody renting is, hey, if your lease is coming up this year, and oh, by the way, it's February, that'll cover the majority of the people. Let's talk about what it takes to buy a home right now. Let's talk about where you're at and what your plans are. Because renting, if you're going to be somewhere and this is, it's right for you and you can afford it, it's a great time to look at owning a home. I always say, if you could go back 10 years from now and buy a home, would you do it? Most people say, I would. How many can we get? That's the bottom line. And the question is, why would you think it would be any different 10 years into the future? So getting that word out among renters, I think, is critically important. But a lot of people don't make that decision for a number of different reasons. But Homebuyer Insight Report said many prospective homebuyers fear that the long-term consequences of renting could include feeling like they're not making long-term investment in their future. So if I'm renting, I'm not doing that. 72% who worry that rent increases can affect their current and long-term finances. There's no doubt that many people get caught in that, and we want to help them achieve the dream of home ownership, if they're ready. A Gallup poll, we've talked about this before, Americans overwhelmingly have voted that real estate is their choice for the best long-term investment, more than stocks or gold or savings accounts. All the things listed there, they say buying a home, owning real estate is the best option for a long-term investment. I think as we think about buyers, we think about sellers, we think about, those that maybe are renting right now, there is opportunity to engage people on this market. And it's going to take that in 2025 to keep momentum going, to start momentum. And here's a sort of an idea. These conversations will turn into contracts. The ultimate conversations turn into conversions, which ultimately turn into contracts. But I think the more productive conversations you're having, it's going to turn into contracts out there. I was talking to an agent yesterday that was popping by past clients to give them something here in February. It's a Valentine's little thing, but it gave that person the opportunity to engage with people to say, oh, what's going on with your house here? Oh, maybe you're outgrowing this, or somebody, your child or a relative or somebody's thinking about moving. All of these conversations turn into contracts. My hope is that you can take what we talk about in 2025 and certainly through the monthly market report and use that to start conversations. Maybe it starts as a social media post, maybe it starts as an email, maybe it starts as an interaction like we just talked about. But those conversations will equal contracts. I want to leave you with two things before I wrap up. On a NerdWallet study that I think is very, very encouraging. NerdWallet said this: many Americans are discouraged with the housing market, according to NerdWallet's 2025 homebuyer report, the ninth of its kind. Still, an ambitious share of Americans are ushering in the new year with optimistic plans to buy a home. And that comes out of this study. And they asked the question, how many people hope to buy a home in the next 12 months? 2025, you see they're 15% higher than 24, 23, 22, 21, 2020, all covered right there. You see it visually. So there are people out there that say, I want to buy a home. There are people out there that say, I want to buy and I don't know how. And I think that's where we can step into the picture and help them as the knowledge broker, as the expert in our market. So I hope you'll take all of this with the monthly market report, use it to be the educated agent in your market. I think this is the market where people want to know, do you know what is happening? Can you lead me forward, my family, whatever the case is, in making a wise decision about buying a home? My hope is all of this information equips you to do that and that you'll be successful in it. We'll see you back next month. Take care.
All right. That was really interesting, I thought. And I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on anything that you're going to take back and talk with clients. But what I thought was super interesting was the amount of equity in most people's homes, and that 40% of Americans own their homes free and clear. So that requires some different conversations, right? If people are maybe willing to move and they have all this equity, but they're not highly motivated, right? They don't probably have to move. That conversation is different than, I have equity and I do want to move, or I own my home free and clear. Why would I move? Right. And so, kind of having different compelling conversations. So, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts, or maybe even how you would approach that. Jerry said the Warren Buffett quote for my investors. Yes, I drove by Warren Buffett's house this weekend. I was in Omaha. I think one thing is we're not convincing anybody to move, right? And so I think just taking the information and these slides are helpful. Or if you did a video with some of these slides saying, 40% of Americans own their home free and clear, which means their equity is tied up. Now, there's different ways that you can access that equity. And if you'd like to know, I'd love to have a conversation with you. So you're kind of leading them to think, but you're not giving them all the answers. And so, unfortunately, maybe the answer is they are just going to tap some of that equity, which doesn't involve you. However, that gives you another opening to continue to follow up with them, right? Or maybe they're going to do a remodel and then they get those bids back and they're like, whoa, why is it $80,000 to do a half bath? Like, and then they decide, you know what? Maybe we'll look, or, would you like me to send you some options that has what you're looking for and you guys can decide. So I think it's a good, like, just school of thought that we're not trying to convince anybody to do anything. I wish we were that good. I wish we were that good as salespeople that we could just convince people to do everything we want to, but we can't. So opening their eyes just to options, or letting them know that you are the trusted expert source when they have housing type questions, right? So that's what I love about this KCM is these slides, the information that they give us just allows us to have that at our fingertips. So now it's our job to not just learn it and sit with all this information, but to put it out there so people know to look at us as the expert, right? A few months ago, we talked about doing a monthly state of the market, which was just like a quick video that had a little bit of KCM, which is the macro, and then putting in some of your local stats, which is the micro. And so if you would have done that when we were talking about it, that was back in October or November. So let's just say you would have put out 3 to 4 videos already as like the monthly state of the market person. Now, there's a commercial company in my area that does a yearly state of the market, and they do a great job with it. But just think if you were the residential expert that put out a state of the market monthly, just a quick video, and then you emailed it out to your whole database, any leads that you have, and you put it on social and or YouTube. And then when people are looking to move to the area and they search, living in Sioux Falls, all of a sudden your YouTube videos come up as state of the market. They're not going to question which realtor they need to pick. They're like, whoa, I can't even find this information from other agents. Even if you talked about today, sort of a state of the market of the amount of equity that people have, but then show the market is still moving and now is a great time for incentives. New construction has all these incentives we've talked about a few times. So just wanted to kind of give you some examples of how you could use this in a way that gets the conversation started, because that's all we're looking for, conversations to make them into opportunities. Yeah. Any other thoughts or anything that you guys do on social with sort of these market stats?
When times are changing, people need more information, more education. And there are a lot of people who just need the level of expertise that you have. And if we don't share it, then you're almost doing the people that you love a disservice. So what we've been doing is we've been scheduling 1 hour every week as a team just to learn. That's
So
it.
good.
Just to learn, like every Wednesday, 12 noon, something, we're learning something new about the market. We're going through the stats, and it has given us so much more confidence when we're talking to people. It's given us so much more clarity when we're talking to people. So I would just say, man, if you find yourself stuck, like sometimes it's just that level of education that you could schedule in that just was like a game changer for us.
That is so good. Such a good point. Like, just sitting down, taking the time and like I'm in learning mode instead of, sometimes we're like listening and we're kind of not and we're doing other things and it happens. But when you have that focused time, like Alan said, it makes such a difference and then you're able to articulate that well. Yeah, such a good point. Then Alan, do you guys take that information or I know you do a lot of social. So do you take that information and then like shoot videos for your clients or you just have that for when the conversation comes up?
Yeah, so we take that information and then our job is to implement it into script practice first. I think sometimes you get information and then you fumble around with it, right? So I remember when I was trying to woo my wife, I had this real smooth pickup line and I practiced that thing in the mirror like 5 or 6 times before I said it. So it's just kind of like you gotta get the words out and then make it your own. I feel like if you don't understand it, then you can't explain it and make it
Yeah.
as simple as you possibly can. Like someone who has to over explain something does not understand it themselves.
I agree, Alan, and I love that, like practicing it before you're like showing up for the big game, right? Before you're in front of people. So I love that. And really taking the time to do it in a script practice. That is so smart because a lot of times we've got the information now and yeah, well, it'll just come out fumbled like, or they'll ask a question. You're like, wait, I don't remember what they said was the whole topic. So really, really good. Love it. Thank you for sharing, Alan. And so good to see you.
You too.
Anybody else? Anything you use with this kind of information?
Hey, Stacy.
Yeah. Hey, Jason.
So to kind of follow up what Alan was saying, I mean, one thing, when I shoot my videos, it's like you read all this information, what's going on, and you try to educate people, but I'll put it into a video script, shoot the video, and I'm amazed at like what I learned just from like it takes me 10 times to shoot that one video and I say it over and over and over. And so kind of like he's saying he practices that script. I'm doing the same thing by shooting it. And I'm like, man, I really kind of I get it now. So then you're able
Yeah.
to tell other people.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. Because when
Yeah.
when you're shooting a video or in front of people, you really do, you realize what you're internalizing from it and what you're confusing about. So I love that. That's true. Just shooting the video
Yeah.
helps a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you guys noticed, all of them, AJ and Jason said, it wasn't like one shot and done. Like we talk about it in script practice, we shoot multiple videos. It does take a lot of practice, but it's worth it for sure. Yeah, go ahead, Joni.
I just want to, like, for me, I just think it's our responsibility to stay up on what's happening in the market because when I'm out showing properties or I'm on a listing appointment and I share with them, hey, I'm a learning junkie. I'm always staying current because the market's always changing. I feel like it puts my clients at ease that they know that I'm doing my homework and they know that I'm not just showing up and sharing what I think. I've actually done the work of going to the classes, reading the article, listening to the YouTubes, all of that. And I just think that it brings much more credibility to my business in this profession.
Yeah,
And
very
it
good.
puts our clients at ease.
Yeah. And when you can show someone something versus just telling them, just like all of us, we believe it more too. We're like, oh, yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
Exactly.
So, yeah, good one. Great share. Anybody else on ways you use this information or maybe now will after you got some more ideas?
I was trying to get this deal done and she was bojangling. Like I'm from the country, so bojangling means she was BSing, right? Wouldn't accept the offer. So I just recorded where the market was on KCM. And I was like, yo, the market's not as strong as you think it was. And when he said it, it was different than when I said it.
Yeah. That's such a good idea too, using it with another agent just to show them your point, or so they can then show their client, like, hey, this is where they're coming from. Oh, that is so good. And now we all have a new term, bojangling. I didn't know
Bojangling.
that. Oh, great. Awesome. Well, good. Okay. I dropped the link in the chat for the slides. I'll drop it again in case you came late. That way you guys have a link to the slides. Let me drop it again quick. So be sure and grab those and then shoot some videos, do some script practice, talk to another agent about what's happening and show them the stats. And I can't wait to hear next week what your guys' positive focus is based on all these great ideas. So I hope you have an awesome week and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye.